I'm going to take you through the Irish Times here. Mayo unlikely to withstand the blue wave is the Kevin McStay piece. I wonder, is this a bit of Yarra from Kevin, or is it just the truth? Is that how he feels? It's, it's hard not to, at this point, feel like... I don't know, we'll talk about that with the lads who know what they're talking about a little bit later. Jerry Thorney's piece, World Cup warm-up games and necessary evil. I didn't know this, but he points out that in 1987, the RFU didn't play any World Cup warm-up games and didn't allow their players to play any club games for 2 months before the World Cup. And funny enough, when they got there, they were a little bit undercooked. Also, Sean Moran, sorry, this is interesting because obviously very well sourced. GAA unlikely to pull plug on Super 8s before third year. I thought it was ridiculous that was the conversation. There are dead rubbers, and apparently the dead rubbers were the only other thing that people were giving out about as much as the traffic at the weekend. The whine about the games. That's how a league works. The end of the league before playoffs, teams rest players because they've got their business done. That's how a league works. It happens in the league. It happens all the time in every championship all around the country. And I don't know why people expected it to be any different.
Yeah, and some of those people might also be saying that the league is the best competition we have in terms of the springtime, and that should be moved to the summer. Well, you also have tons of dead rubbers in the league. So there's two problems here. One of them is perhaps the timing of the Super 8s, that it's coming in the middle of the season, and that actually having round-robin games, actually having group stages games is just in the wrong place. It should be earlier in the year with, say, an All-Ireland thing. And then, second of all, you have kind of like a small group in that there shouldn't be any dead rubbers in a 4-team group. But to be fair, you get that in the World Cup, stuff like that. So get it in the Champions League.
The point of the Super 8s was not to fix everything. It was to get more games where good teams were playing against each other in summertime. And that was and that's all it's been able to do because we still have the crap provincial championships. And while we continue to have the crap that are the provincial championships, the whole thing is unfixable.
Yeah, for sure. The back page of the Sun this morning is Harry Plotter, United new boys vow, Maguire in it for loot. And then fans take the mick. Mickey Harte says GA fans have no God-given right to see every big game on free-to-air TV. And the Red Hands chief believes that RTE has a vested interest in suggesting otherwise. That's in reference to a Sunday game conversation at the weekend. Apparently Mickey Harte doesn't like RTE. McCarthy, Sweetener, Everton have put together what they consider to be a £100 million pound-package to sign Wilfred Zaha, and James McCarthy will be involved in that package. Cenk Tosun is the other player involved in around a £65 million cash fee as well.
So what's the story, McCarthy?
So McCarthy will be offered by Everton to Crystal Palace in exchange for Wilfred Zaha, but on top of James McCarthy they'll be offering £65 million and Cenk Tosun.
Wow, it's a lot, isn't it?
It's a pretty huge offer, to be honest. It would be a good move for James McCarthy, I think.
Palace
moving on to Crystal Palace.
Palace they won the Cahill Stakes as well.
Well, they absolutely did. They're paying him £75,000 a week as a 33-year-old central defender. This is that's quite an achievement by Gary Cahill to manage to get that sort of contract. There's one other story here in the back of the Sun. Carl Frampton's fight this Saturday is off after he was knocked out by a vase in a freak accident. So he's in Philadelphia for a scheduled comeback bout against Emmanuel Dominguez, but Sunsport understands that the falling ornament inflicted the damage as he chilled out ahead of the weekend's action. He's understood to be devastated. It's Kevin Byrne's story in the Sun this morning.
The Racing Post, Kieran Fallon, they've got a feature about him in the Tuesday Profile, 2 pages on him, and then also the news that Too Darn Hot has been retired after a leg injury. Sussex Stakes hero bound for stud after suffering leg injury, underwent successful surgery and will be grand.
Back page of the Mirror this morning is It's My Dream Move. Maguire says he would never turn down Reds. I'm here to win big trophies, says Harry Maguire. Must get real, says John Cross. Manchester United do not believe Real Madrid are serious about buying Paul Pogba, so they offered £30 million plus James Rodriguez for Paul Pogba. Manchester United say that's not a good enough offer. It's pretty you would laugh at that offer if you were Ed Woodward. And Rooney's ready to be a Ram, so this is an interesting one. Wayne Rooney could make a sensational return to English football with Derby County. He's being linked with a player-coach move with the Rams.
Right. Because he was saying last week that he wasn't going to leave, and that a journalist put it to him that Colleen was saying she wanted to go home. He was like, oh, that's what it is it? Is it? She's the boss, is it? And it was like, well, very petulant, unusually petulant from Rooney in a press conference. So the front of the Examiner this morning, dark days, Kildare's Cian O'Neill on the torment of letting down your own people. He said he didn't leave home for 4 days after Westmeath beat them. The Wonder Review, Tony McEntee, and why we are all still infatuated with Mayo. Tony McEntee, He thinks that, now obviously he spent a lot of time with Mayo, but he thinks that Dublin's performance against Tyrone at the weekend was important because it demystified the whole sense that, sure, their second team is as good as any team in the country, and that actually they're not, and that they're good up to 16 or 17, but after that, he's not sure how the reserves are. James McCarthy's coming back. He's a proper Rolls-Royce footballer. But the forwards, he said the other day, didn't look good. He didn't think Dermot Connolly played well, and he didn't think Brogan and O'Gara played well, or Rory Carroll. He said, look, this is their twilight appearance. And I was like, well, this is pretty interesting. It's quite hard-hitting stuff. And then I turned the page, and Micheál Quirk is like, he thought that Connolly was great. So, this is why we have opinions, and this is why we have markets, and this is why there are debates about these things. I thought Connolly looked pretty decent, to be honest. I thought that there might be a glimpse into his future with the Dublin team over the next couple of years in that performance, where he's not charged with scoring or being the only creator in the team, but that actually he will be picking the ball up from the half-back line, will be picking the ball up around midfield. Who knows, maybe he ends up as a sweeper, playing till he's 40. Who knows?
I felt like I'd never seen an outside the boot pass ever when I saw Dermot Connolly back on the pitch at the weekend.
5 or 6 in a row.
Yeah, there's just something about the way that he executes it that's better. Even when David Warren knocked over that massive 50-yard one off the outside of the right boot against Meath at the weekend, there was just still something about Dermot Connolly's passing off the outside of the boot that's just that little bit sweeter that I kind of missed, to be quite honest with you.
It was good, wasn't it?
It pains me to say it, but I kind of missed Dermot Connolly.
It was good. It was good he was back. McAtee's point about Mayo, and we have an infatuation with them as a country and as football fans. It's true. It's absolutely true. I just feel like maybe they're out of row this weekend.
Yeah, the evidence is there. We've seen it this summer that when Mayo don't have a good run up to a game, or they are a little bit leggy, they can let themselves down, because you can either take that at face value, or you can say that their worst performance so far this year was down to the fact that they just didn't care about that game. Now, the thing is, they will definitely care about this weekend, but I'm not sure if I actually buy that Mayo actually made a calculated decision to not care about a football match this summer.
It's not calculated. You see, that's the thing. They can't turn it on.
Subconscious.
It's 100% ingrained in them that this is not do or die, and so therefore, does it really matter? Yeah, it matters. Come on, you tell yourself, but you can't cheat it.
The back page of the Herald this morning is Doherty woe for Mayo, cruciate injury fears grow for Jason ahead of big clash with Dubs, and a story that is probably leading the way in the Irish Independent, I think, this morning as well. Jack set for Lily, so Jack O'Connor poised to become the next Kildare football manager.
The Irish Daily Star this morning, mag in the bag. Harry Maguire insisted he couldn't turn down Manchester United after completing his €90 million move to Old Trafford. And then black cards, an awful nightmare. This is Mickey Harte, who also says that he was talking about the black card came in after a rant about Sean Cavanagh deliberately pulling somebody down. And if you look at what Peter Harte did 10 minutes into the game, was it against Donegal or was it against whoever it was, Cavan, certainly one of them, that why would anybody be deliberately pulling somebody down? It was a clumsy challenge, and that's not what the black cards were brought in for. And so therefore, the fact that he's at risk of missing an All-Ireland final if he gets black carded against Kerry is ludicrous. I can see Mickey Harte's point. An accumulation of black cards leading to you missing an All-Ireland final doesn't really seem right, does it?
No, it seems a bit unusual. I know he was specifically asked about that incident. I presume, anyway, he was asked about that in his press conference yesterday. But is that sort of kind of Sunday build-up quote? Is it Peter Harte better not get black carded this weekend?
I think, I don't know. It might be. And fair play if Mickey was already thinking like that, because he obviously wasn't thinking about the Dublin game, so maybe he was thinking about that. But it's a good point, right? If we're going to get to the point where some players are going to miss All-Ireland finals because of black cards, something probably needs to be done about that.
Yeah, if it's an accumulation of red cards, say, throughout the season, or there's kind of a fair suspension for boxing the head off somebody in an All-Ireland semi-final, then fair enough. But for somebody that you could deem to be non-intentional...
Well, say you get, it's three over the course of it. Say you get one in the first game you play and one in the second game you play, and 9 games later you get a third one in the All-Ireland semi-final, which, it's not a million miles away from Tyrone's season this year. That's not fair, is it?
Yeah, it's a pretty big gap.
They need to expunge every 4 or 5 games.
I think the specific case of this isn't fair, but also it comes down to the foundation of this, which is the black card, and it just clearly has not worked whatsoever. And actually having a significant impact on what you're actually doing as a result of this black card and getting suspended for an All-Ireland final does seem a little bit unfair. But you would just like to think that Peter Harte will be refereed like every other player at the weekend.
I'm sure he will, yeah. Ericsson, I look at you, obviously already sending out the message to the referee, don't buy any of that Mickey Harte bollocks, is what you're saying. That's what the subtext of the Kerry message has gone out. Did you get a WhatsApp in the middle of that conversation there, just to make sure you...
There's just actually somebody in my ear.
Okay, that's class. Technology
This is not linked up to the studio whatsoever.
This is a good story. Ericsson and cheap exit. So, obviously it would look like Christian Eriksen is probably going to stay, is what most people think, but he's refusing to sign a new deal, and he's only got a year left on his deal, which means that he'll be free from January 1st to start talking to people about what happens next year. Spurs have been looking for 140 million euros, and now 3 or 4 clubs are like, well, you ain't getting that, buddy. We're going to end up driving the price down. So suddenly there is an auction, and it probably is going to mean that he ends up leaving before the end of the European transfer window.
Yeah, that's a bit of a disaster for Spurs if it ends up going beyond that, because this will become the saga of the entire season. Christian Eriksen in his last couple of months in Spurs, and Levy will not get the money that he's looking for. Like, it's a huge sum that they're looking for Christian Eriksen. I don't think anybody's going to stump up that amount of cash.
I mean, he's probably worth close enough to it if you compare what he's able to do versus some of the players who are currently being, well, maybe not.
But with 1 year left in your deal, you have to accept some sort of cut price, and it's going to be below 100 million quid.
Yeah, sign him up though. Like, keep him. Do whatever you can to keep him. You've got the money now.
Yeah. Like I would definitely think on the balance of things, you have to keep Christian Eriksen. Does Danny Levy have his eyes on somebody else? Though, like, I mean, we were talking about Dybala last week, and if Christian Eriksen went, like, would he be a perfect solution for Spurs? He might fit in with Spurs, with Spurs signing rather than Manchester United, and that could be something that they do with the money. Like, Dybala, according to the reports, has turned down Manchester United because of their contract offer. I mean, do you get the Christian Eriksen money and put that into Dybala's wages as well? Like, you would like to think that Levy has a plan B here if Christian Eriksen is going to go. It's a bit of a nuisance that there is a 2-week gap between the 2 transfer windows, and it's a bad move from the Premier League in that regard. All those big European leagues should probably come together.
Have you finished? Got one more?
Racing Post leads with Tudor and Harte being retired, and on the back page, England are 5-2 to bounce back from Ash's blow.
Don't be hasty. Red Hand boss insists Super 8s needs patience. So that was the other aspect of Mickey Harte's story. He thinks the Super 8s, the dead rubber thing, I mean, it happens everywhere. So calm down, everybody. People are quick to dismiss things because they've got some difficulties with it. There's always going to be a possibility that the last game wouldn't have much meaning other than the status of just having to beat somebody, or these dead rubber games in terms of the outcome. I don't think any game is a dead rubber. I mean, obviously it was completely, but and then picture from the Dublin Kerry women's football game. Kerry's Ciara Murphy with Dublin's Carla Rowe. Dubs too strong for Kingdom is the picture there. And Schmidt begins to trim his World Cup panel as first names are cut from training squad. So Joe Schmidt has swung the axe early by cutting Ultan Dillane and Rory Scannell from his World Cup training squad. Dillane and Scannell were named in Schmidt's initial 44-man panel, later enlarged to 45 to accommodate Will Addison at the end of May, and were there for the 5 weeks, which took them all around the country, but then they were cut. So after the Italy game on Saturday at Lansdowne Road, which I'm sure everybody's very excited about, then it'll be cut from 43 to 38, and then the final cut will happen. It's tough getting this far and then being cut.
Having to do the slog of pre-season and then saying, actually, there is no international season for you.
Yeah, now, like, if you're Dillane, you must be thinking, okay, I am as fit as those guys. I'm going to make sure that I have the best season of my life, because Joe Schmidt's gone in 2 months, and the new head coach is going to see that I am the best player who is catapulting myself into the season with all of the pre-season, the benefits that I've had from that. That can only be the only way you can get out of this.
Yeah, and like, it's really tough for Dillane to take, given he actually played well in the Six Nations this year when he was a bit part player. Like, in Rory Scannell's case, it's a bit different. He hasn't played for Ireland, I think, since June 2017 at this point, so the wait has been longer. He's probably going in there saying, I would be overachieving to make this squad. Like, there's a couple of interesting ones to this, like who gets in now instead of Dillane. We all kind of suspected that John Klein had a very, very good chance of making this squad. He's kind of put more into view now as a result of this.
Yeah,
and then with Rory Scannell, like, it's interesting to see Mike Haley still in and around the squad.
And how do people feel about John Klein, who is a South African who becomes qualified, I think, this week, who will play this weekend.
That's no coincidence.
Well, Kerry's Ultan Delan playing for Connacht doesn't get a chance to...
When you say people, do you mean people inside the squad or Irish rugby supporters?
I think... That's a good question. I don't know.
I would say in the squad it's fine. I mean, the culture is there that there's been many people who've come through and have come from other countries to actually represent Ireland, so I don't think that's much of an issue. But
well, it's just that Delan's been around the squad. Wasn't Delan on the pitch in... was he on the pitch in Chicago? Was he one in that famous picture of all the Connacht lads? Certainly he was around the squad at that stage. He's been around the team, played at Twickenham, and he's given all the time. And Johnny, come lately, gets in. Look, I'm sure it's not going to... If everybody thinks this is our best bet to win the World Cup, they'll be like, yeah, look, that's the way it goes.
Yeah, it is ruthless from Joe Schmidt. I mean, he is the person who also gave Ultan Delan his first international break. Like, it wasn't the most out there thinking. He was always a very, very talented young rugby player, so he was always going to come through. The Ireland head coach was always going to give him that opportunity. But I'm sure it was probably a little bit of a tough decision for Joe Schmidt to actually go through with that and to actually look at Klein. But I'd say we're going to see a couple of more ruthless decisions over the next couple of weeks. Just a couple of the UK back pages to run through. Ashes turmoil, says the back of the Guardian. Root defiant over Anderson despite crushing defeat. The London Times then go with abject England must summon spirit of 2005. And then the Daily Telegraph, the fortress crumbles. England surrender on final day as Australia go 1-0 up with crushing 251 run victory at Edgbaston.
The Irish Independent, finally for now, O'Connor is set to take Kildare reins. Sorry, I got the Irish News coming your way as well in a minute. But anyway, former Kerry boss in line to make dramatic return to senior county scene with Lily White's Colm Keys story. And obviously O'Connor has strong links to Kildare through his sons. Colm Keys has Cian and Aina, who both won county and provincial titles with a successful Moorfield team. And of course, Jack O'Connor was involved in some kind of consultancy capacity with the Moorfield manager, Ross Glavin, who apparently could join Jack O'Connor on his team. So I'm not quite sure who else is going to be on the team just yet, but certainly Kildare looking to make a statement with Jack O'Connor as their next manager. And then race to Japan heats up as Schmidt cuts Delan and Scannell for opener, and they've obviously got a Harry Maguire picture as well. We got the Irish News for you, and they obviously are leading with that Carl Frampton story. We'll get more details on that from Phil a little bit later on. Harte, try to catch the dubs, not scrap the provinces. Yeah, okay. And then Geezer handed 2 more years. So there was that one letter that the Irish News published from an unnamed former or current Gaelic footballer. I wasn't sure. It was probably former, was it? Who said that Geezer was taking Armagh backwards. And then luckily the Armagh County Board have realised that that's not the case. And they want him to stay. Here's As. Pogba, silencio se juega. Se juega? Maybe we'll get a translation on that. Pogba, silence, I'm playing. I play. Yeah, that's not bad, yeah. Okay, there you go. My pigeon Spanish.
Is that just a voice in your head that's suddenly reminding you of what all that means?
Yeah, Jojo's outside. He's the voice in my head. Silence, we play. So, the point is that...
it means shut up and play.
All right, okay.
Just to correct you there.
Okay, that's good. It's an order.
I've got no idea what the context of that is. Is it just the Real Madrid offer that Manchester United are actually turning down, or what? I'm not sure. Just a quick one on Jack O'Connor. Like, obviously, as a Kildare man, I'm not quite sure how you feel about this whole thing, but I find this a very intriguing appointment because he was the first name that came into my head when Cian O'Neill did step away as Kildare boss. And
Malachy O'Rourke came into my head, I've got to say, like, as a, you know, the Jack O'Connor team that Kerry won the All-Ireland with had some of the greatest footballers of all time.
Well, that's exactly it. It's like, if your belief is that Kildare have underachieved over the past couple of years, then Jack O'Connor is probably the right guy for the job. But if you think that they're about right and that they need something innovative and they need some sort of new thinking and they need some sort of way of actually getting the best of what they've already done, then I'm not sure about this appointment whatsoever. Malachy O'Rourke would have been perfect in that sense. But if Kildare are like a sleeping giant in terms of the current crop of players that they have, then he's the right guy.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's the case, though. I don't think they've actually bottomed out or they've actually underachieved as much as you might actually suspect. Like, this year, how much better could they do?
Well,
like,
it depends.
With Daniel Flynn not there, with Niall Kelly not there.
Exactly.
Last year, they made the Super 8s.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know it'd be great if Kildare could start having managers who are from Kildare and who are familiar with all the nuances of the club scene. Now, in fairness, Jack O'Connor is obviously very familiar with the club scene, given that he's been involved with Moorfield. So,
well, Keane O'Neill would have been as well, and like that's.
Well, Keane was driving up and down from Cork the whole time.
Yeah, but like I mean, he's a Kildare man.
It's true. Yeah, it's true. Look, there's bigger Gaelic football stories to fry.